in October 1929, the stock market crashed. 2 months later, unemployment peaked at 9%. Over the next several months, the unemployment began to subside irregularly, down to 6.3% by June of 1930. So 8 months after the stock market crash, we have not yet hit double digits in unemployment. June 1930, when it's 6.3%, the government intervenes first, the first real intervention on a massive scale under Hoover, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which were designed to reduce unemployment by restricting imports in the United States so that more of these goods will be built in the United States by American workers. It sounds good. 1,000 economists from the leading universities around the country signed a public appeal to Congress and the president not to pass this bill, that it would not do what they said it would do. It would not reduce unemployment. It would, in fact, lead to retaliation that would make it harder for Americans to sell their goods in other countries. As often happens, no one paid the slightest attention. The bill was passed, and within 5 months after the bill was passed, we had double-digit unemployment for the first time. This is from a bill designed to lower unemployment. Right. And when it hit, and this time it did not subside. It never fell below double digits for the entire remainder of the decade of the 30s, not even for a single month. Not all of it was the Smoot-Hawley tariff. When FDR came in 33, he then put in the National Industrial Recovery Act. He put in the Agricultural Adjustment Act. He put in the Wagner Act. He issued more presidential executive orders than all subsequent presidents throughout the remainder of the 20th century. So the government intervened on a massive scale, and yet the unemployment never came down below double digits for the entire decade.
So we get the stock market crash in 29. Mm-hmm. Herbert Hoover, as president, understands that something terrible has happened, but fundamentally the policies in place are those of Calvin Coolidge and every president before, small federal government, mm-hmm. and we see signs that the market begins to correct itself. Right. The economy begins to recover, and then Herbert Hoover and Congress decide what to do to fix things.
Yes.
And they immediately make things worse, and Franklin Roosevelt comes in and keeps fixing it and keeps fixing it and keeps fixing it, and it stays bad, bad, bad.
Yes.
That's a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. So then we have to move on to the next question, which is, well, then what did end the Great Depression? If it wasn't the New Deal, it's over by the middle of the unemployment is down to close to zero by the middle of the war.
Yes.
So what happened?
The war.
The war happened.
But the question is, what about the war?
Well, yes, right. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that the war did that most people seem not to notice is that it took 12 million men out of the civilian labor force and put them in uniform.
That'll help your unemployment figures.
It will, right. Yes. FDR actually put his finger on something that other people overlook, and he had a wonderful statement about how with the coming of the war, Dr. New Deal was replaced by Dr. Win the War. And what that meant is the war put an end to the New Deal. And when you and moreover, it went the other direction. Instead of creating all this uncertainty, which all this intervention does, quite aside from the merits of the particular interventions, it gave a tremendous certainty because it began the practice of cost-plus contracts for military equipment suppliers. And so if you signed a contract with the government for $1 million, you were guaranteed you'd get your $1 million back, plus whatever profit they allowed in the contract. So before, you see, because of all the anti-business rhetoric, you never, once you start intervening, it's not just the question of the merit of the particular intervention. It's the fact that nobody knows when you're going to intervene again. And that's true now. That, you know, this whole thing about, no one said that you could fire the head of General Motors by giving them this money, but once they decide they're going to do it, they can do it. And so nobody knows what's going to happen next.